Good morning, I'm Johnny Estep from TACMed Simulations, and today I'll be going over the use and care of the Canine simulation mannequin model. Okay, starting with the head, you can intubate the canine. His tongue will move around, but the tongue is also magnetic, so I can pull it out. And I have a different one that's an injured mouth. This one, I'll use the magnet to put it back in. And then take this piece to place over the teeth. And what that does is block the airway. Once the airway is blocked, I can come down here, because we can't intubate with the airway being blocked. There's a zipper on his neck. I zip that down. And now I can do a trach. The trach has different ones, and they connect at the 4. So this is a single cut one. But there's also multi-use ones. And there's one that you can fill with blood. So when you cut on it, it'll bleed just like an actual dog when you go to intubate. Okay, on both of the front legs, you also can insert an IV on the front. Once this has been stuck too many times, it's easy to take out, and you have replacements. And then you can just stick a new one right back in on both sides. But if you go further down, a lot of the canines, when they're chasing somebody, they'll hit gravel or something and it extends their legs out. So right now the leg goes to right here. But if you take this, open this up, and you can unscrew this screw right here, and the paw will go out, so they would have to splint it. Another common injury on our canines is their paws get cut. So we have a simulation here that you can put blood on, and they can suture it. And you can get probably 200 or 300 sutures before you can cut them out. After you put them in, you can cut them out and replace them. But if the paw gets too tore up and you can't suture it anymore, it slides off. And then you have another paw, and you can just slide it right back on and start all over. As we move down, we have an axillary wound. This is, we can make it bleed. And this is for packing and applying pressure to stop the bleeding. What I like to do, we also have a bullet wound, gunshot wound. It's magnet. So you can take it and place it anywhere on the canine. What I like to do is place it up front, so it looks like an entry wound, and this is the exit wound. And you take the magnet, stick it under the fur, and you have your entry wound, exit wound, and you can put blood on this so it looks more realistic, and then you're packing the exit wound. If the dog is unresponsive and not breathing and you're intubating, you're bagging him, you can also conduct CPR with chest compressions going up to 2 inches deep. Come down here, you'll find another zipper. If you unzip it, you can reach in here and his intestines will come out. You can apply blood to that. So it's another injury that the medics can treat. If you look right here, this is where tension pneumo is. So if the dog is in stress and under tension pneumo, we can set that on the remote. It'll make his breathing rate rise up to about 120 beats per minute until you apply the NCD. And then he'll return to normal. You also hear the air pressure release as you put the needle in. Move down to here, we have bloat, which is GDV. And it's the same concept, except when you apply that on the remote, he's going to swell up. That's the stomach. And you can stick a needle in it, it'll deflate it too, and show that you've corrected the action on the remote. So on the inside of the leg, you have your IO. There's also replacements for this, and it shows you here how to open it. You just turn it to the side, and so when you have to replace this, you have extras. You stick it back in there and turn it, and that closes it up. And you can also push drugs through there if you need to, and this is where it will come out. So you can push everything. On the IVs that we talked about earlier, you cannot push, but you will get a flash, and that's because the blood circulates inside the dog. Where here you can push. You also have a humeral IO on both of the good legs, because these legs can be switched out to have different injuries. But for the humeral IO, if you unzip here, So, and it's the same as the other. It'll tell you here how to open. You just turn this and it should pop out. And then to put it back, stick it in there and lock it back in. Just like the upper legs has the IV, but the lower legs don't. What the lower legs do have is you can feel a pulse under here when we have it turned on. So on both good legs, you can do that. However, we can change these legs out. We're able to exchange the legs out to have different wounds. So if you get another leg, like this is our amputated leg, it'll say inside LR. This means left rear. So I know that it will go on the left rear of the canine. To exchange these legs, you simply find the zipper, unzip it all the way around, and then you pull the flap down. You'll see a button right here. I usually pull it down like this, press that button, and it slides right out. So I've taken the good leg off. Then I take the amputated leg, line it up, push it in till it clicks, put the flap back over it, and now we have a new leg on it. That can also be done with the front legs and both rear legs. On the back rear of the animal is where you have your power button, your blood fill port, and your filter. What we need to make sure of is after training is done for the week is we take the filter out and clean it. Because if we leave blood in there and we don't clean the filter, clots will form and then the bleeding won't work anymore and it'll have to be sent in for repair. The Canine runs off a Makita battery and it's inserted at the rear end of the dog. You can see right here is where it goes. It just slides on just like if you had one of your power tools. After inserting the battery, the power button again is right here. We'll press it and a blue light should come on. It takes 2 lithium batteries. They're the same size as AA batteries. However, lithium batteries are 3.7 amps, where your AA batteries are 1.6. So AA battery will not, it'll fit in here, but it will not run the remote and work the Canine. So you must use these and they come with their own charger, just like your Makita battery does. Your Canine diesel runs off of this remote right here. The power button is at the top. This is your select button and your adjust button. And then you can have up to 2 bleeds. So you have a bleed button. When you have the bleed going, it will turn red. When they stop the bleeding, it'll turn green so that the instructor knows that it's been stopped correctly. Same thing with your bleed 2. Down at the bottom, you have the 4 buttons labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4. Your first button is to make him bark. The second button is for whining. The third button is for growling. And your fourth button can be set for either strider or sturder when he's breathing. If we want to make changes to anything, right here is the very first thing we see once we turn the remote on. I can go to select and press it. It takes me to a menu. If I go down to pulses, I click on it and you can see 98 beats per minute or the pulse feels medium. If I want to change that, I can change it by the beats per minute by selecting it and pressing the button, going to the adjust, and I can go up or down on his pulse rate. And then to lock it in, I just press select again. Or you can come down to pulse feel, click on it so it blinks. I can go to strong, medium, or weak. Once I get to what I want, I press select again to lock it in, and then I can go back. Show you another one, I can go down to GDV or tension pneumo, click on it. GDV says off. I click select to make it blink. Once I turned it on, you can see the GDV starts bulging out. I will lock it into place, go back again, and you can see on the remote, it says that GDV is active. So then I could take a needle, insert it. You can hear the air release. And then if you look where GDV is now, it says success. So when mixing the blood, you fill up how much blood you think you're going to need. And then you have blood packets, simulated blood powder. So open that up. It does not take a whole packet. I just dump a little bit in. And then I take the stir stick and stir it around. You do not have to use a whole packet or even half a packet. Once the water starts looking like blood, it's not going to get any redder, it's not going to get any thicker, and that's all you'll need. Once you have the blood mixed, you'll take your hose. It's a quick snap release. Just click it on, and now we're ready to fill the canine with blood. The canine has a blood fill port. We connect the other end of the hose to it. It clicks on. It's gravity fed, so then you must take the bucket and hold it higher than the canine so that it can fill up with blood. Okay, since we added the amputated leg, we have to add that onto the remote. Right now we just have the axillary wound that was already on it. To do that, we'll press select, go to the menu. Down here we'll go to more options. We'll click on more options. Here we'll go to configuration. Click on configuration. So on here you can see there's an asterisk next to axillary wound. That means that's your bleed 1, but we want to add the rear amputation. To do that, we go down to rear amputation, click on it, and it adds an asterisk. That'll be your bleed 2. Now we have to go to accept. When you get here, it's going to ask you, do you want to make these changes? You click on yes, and now the remote will reset. When it comes back up, now you can see axillary is on here and rear amp is on here. As I told you before, the buttons are for your sounds. So your first button is bark. Your second button is whine. Your third button is growl. And your fourth button can be set at sturder or strider. And that will go in a loop because that's as he breathes, you'll hear those sounds. Now, if you want to turn that off, you have to hold the button for about 5 seconds. At this time, we're going to make the rear amp bleed, and I'll press bleed 2. You'll see the light has come on, and he's starting to bleed. The light is red, so what I'll do to stop it, and then the light turns green once I stop the bleeding.